bloodthirsty monster from Africa, a difficult-to-notice poisonous stone, a miniature killer, a pretty tricky sailor, and much more. In this episode, you'll see the most dangerous and strangest sea creatures. Giant tigerfish. This creature in question devours crocodiles with an ease we'd never have dreamed possible. This is still happening in the African waters today. The locals nicknamed the fish Mabenga and decided that to catch it means to reach the maximum level in fishing, and you would only know how many attempts to catch it are made every day, but only the strongest and most experienced can do this. The main reason for such a rare catch is, of course, its size, 110 pounds. Heavy, aggressive fish does just that, twitching from side to side, trying to gnaw through the fishing line. In the latter, it helps her frightening mouth of 32 sharp teeth, each of which is not less than an inch in length. There are also abnormally large tigerfish, the mere sight of which makes the blood run cold in the veins. But this is the exception rather than the rule. This river monster swallows its prey whole, and if suddenly it doesn't fit in the mouth, then the former cuts it into pieces and then swallows one by one. Scientists also notice that the tigerfish often attacks birds. During the study, in 15 days, several of these specimens have eaten 300 swallows. Can you even imagine this appetite and desire to take life? No wonder even crocodiles get some. At the same time, the big tigerfish is ready to fight in any conditions. Take the oxygen out of the water? It's no problem. It'll get some air from the surface. The summer was too hot and all the rivers dried up? It doesn't care again. It'll easily crawl to the dry land and burrow in some hole. Now I'm going to show you a video of a man catching the most poisonous fish in the world. Despite its harmless appearance, it is incredibly dangerous because it can pierce any defense in seconds and inject a deadly toxin into the victim's body, from which it's unlikely to recover. The stonefish, or reef stonefish, has a flat body shape and is covered with sharp spines that make it very dangerous to humans. It can reach up to 16 inches in length and weigh up to 4 pounds. The stonefish is a bottom-dwelling fish that prefers to live in shallow waters, among coral reefs, in thickets of algae, or among rocks. This species has warts on its body which looks like small nodes. They contain poisonous glands, and when they come in contact with human skin, they can cause severe pain, swelling, and in some cases, even paralysis. The bite of this fish is very painful, and it's not uncommon for a person to need hospitalization afterwards. Despite its danger, the creature is an object of fishing, as its spines are used for making souvenirs and jewelry. It's also an important component of the diet of some species of sharks and murini, although I find it hard to believe that any creature on Earth would risk attacking it. We get why it was named that, but where did the alternative name rockfish come from? Do you know? It's all about its hunting style. It's almost impossible to spot this animal among the colorful vegetation of the reefs, so the fish doesn't have to hunt. It only has to lie and wait for a shrimp, fish, or squid to swim as close as possible, and then it's over in a matter of seconds. Just one bite. The unfortunate victim will be swallowed and will be in this bottomless belly. And if the enemy is less lucky and it tries to defend itself, it'll just get a couple of shots with spikes and begin to suffer from pain. By the way, if you or your loved ones ever step on this monster, know that the poison of this underwater creature is protein. This means that it will start to break down when heated up a lot. Therefore, it'll definitely be necessary to heat the affected area and apply a tourniquet. This will make it much easier and safer. There will definitely be enough time to get to the hospital. Irukandji jellyfish. The irukandji is a small but very dangerous sea creature that lives in the waters of the Pacific and Indian Oceans. It gets its name from the Irukandji tribe, which lives in Australia and New Guinea. Jellyfish is small in size. Its dimensions are only from ½ an inch to an inch, but at the same time the length of the tentacles can reach more than 3 feet. This creature has a very strong poison, which can cause severe pain, cramps, nausea, vomiting, and even cardiac arrest. Its venom contains special substances that can cause severe allergic reactions and anaphylactic shock. Therefore, if you find this creature in the water, you should leave immediately. Well, or gather all the will in a fist, as the heroes of this video, and catch the jellyfish with the help of special equipment. In fact, although irukandji is incredibly dangerous, it feeds on phytoplankton and zooplankton. However, it's not worth taking a picture with her at the first opportunity. This jellyfish does not understand anything at all, so it stings everyone left, left and right, no matter who gets in its way. The problem is aggravated by the fact that the poison of this jellyfish has a double bottom. At first, the affected area doesn't burn much and swells. The real problems begin after half an hour, when the tourist has already forgotten about the situation. Headaches, confusion, overexcitability, and panic attacks are just a small part of the trouble. Alligator snapping turtle. Our next guest is a giant with a length of 5 feet and a body weight of more than 130 pounds. This guy in the video caught it with his bare hands. I have no idea how he did it, but he got the turtle out of the water and kept all his limbs intact. Eventually, the alligator snapping turtle was released, of course. It was probably shocking that someone dared to touch it at all. The fact is that in its native waters, there has been no one who could oppose it for a long time. The animal is used to complete and unilateral domination, but don't think that's good for it. So in the course of evolution, she's learned to hide its head in its shell and move quickly. The turtle makes up for lost skills with its powerful beak, ready to thrust into its victim's body at any moment. And whoever her enemy turns out to be, it'll be unlucky. The animal can easily bite a whole pineapple in half. And the alligator snapping turtle will always wait for its own. This reptile is ready to sit for hours on end on the muddy bottom and wait for the perfect moment to attack. The turtle is helped by its own cloaca. It has a special pocket where the liquid is stored. Due to that, this representative of the common snapping turtle assimilates oxygen. It's okay to catch a turtle, even an alligator snapping turtle. It can't hide very well, and if you know the right technique, you can do it easily. But some crazy people seriously wanted to catch a Portuguese man-o-war. And no, you can't call them pirates. They were after a large transparent bubble, also known as a killer jellyfish. And to get you excited about this video of a Portuguese man-of-war being caught, let me tell you why it's considered dangerous. To begin with, it lives up to its name. Its upper part, which is a large transparent bubble 6 inches to 8 inches long, is very similar to the stern of a ship. The ship moves only thanks to the wind or water current. Underwater hides another part of it, poisonous tentacles. Their length, attention, can reach 164 feet. And now imagine how such huge tentacles, equipped with shooter cells, pierce the prey like a harpoon and inject poison into it. After contact with the tentacles, they leave severe burns on the skin. The ordinary 5% vinegar helps relieve the pain and destroy the poison, but it's unlikely that every fisherman or vacationer on the beach carries it with them. It's good to know that the creature can sting people only for self-defense. It will not attack us for nothing. The Portuguese man-of-war is much happier to eat small fish, shrimps, and other sea creatures. Strange slug, a shapeless, slimy creature of black color. Hearing such a characterization, you can't help but imagine some monster from horror movies or just fantastic creatures. But in fact, this slug actually exists in reality. This black mollusk is considered to be the largest slug in the world. Its alternative names are the sea hare or the California sea slug. Why the California slug? Because that's where these giants predominantly live. They can reach impressive sizes. The largest specimen discovered by people was about 3.5 feet long and weighed about 30 pounds. Mostly meet individuals smaller, but they all look equally crippling. Fortunately, in shallow waters, these mollusks come out only to lay eggs. That's why it's a great rarity to meet them. Their self-defense strategy is quite interesting. Long ago, people noticed how these slugs release an incomprehensible purple liquid. Researchers for a long time couldn't understand its true meaning, and only recently a group of scientists were able to establish this. It turns out that this substance deprives the enemy of the ability to feel the sea slug, and as a consequence makes him lose his appetite. The liquid coats the enemy entirely and makes its neurons inactive. As a result, the predator will take a long time to clean itself of the sticky substance and will have time to lose its appetite, while the mollusk will, meanwhile, escape. But even if the slug misses and doesn't hit those very neurons, it's no big deal. The enemy will probably just change its attack vector to the ink itself. They say it's high in amino acids, which makes it quite appetizing. Okay, well, that black slug is incredibly unpleasant, but if you accidentally pick it up, nothing bad will happen. That's more than I can say for the blue-ringed octopus, our next guest. I'd call him one more reason not to go to Australia. Wait a minute, maybe it's not as dangerous as we're told. One tourist accidentally picked it up and nothing happened to her. The poor woman found out that the octopus of such color is poisonous shortly after filming the video. She read online that blue-ringed octopuses have enough venom to finish off a human in a few minutes. The bites from these octopuses are almost painless, so so many people don't notice them until suffocation, paralysis, and cardiac arrest occur. An antidote for the blue-ringed octopus venom has not yet been found. As soon as the girl found out about it, she immediately called her father and cried. I think everyone realizes how lucky she is. These hardly noticeable creatures weigh only 3.5 ounces and are no more than 6 inches long. Plus, they can easily change color and adapt to their environment. In short, they do everything they can to avoid being feared. And then a bite, and bye-bye. To our great fortune, they cannot eat a man. We're too large for them. So they hunt crabs, shrimp, and small fish. And the way of absorbing food is very similar to the spider. That is, they just inject poison into the victim and wait until her insides turn into a kind of soup. Interesting fact, blue-ringed octopus produces such a terrible toxin it's not on its own. It's aided by symbiotic bacteria. They build this nerve poison for which there is no antidote. But that's not even the worst part as far as I'm concerned. It'd be lucky if the toxin was just killed in a flash. The victim at least didn't suffer. But here it turns out that the bitten person cannot move, cannot breathe, but at the same time sees and hears everything. It's even scarier to imagine what it's like to die, seeing and hearing how people have already stopped fighting for your life. What do you think is hiding under that big rock? Maybe a snake? Or an eel? It'd be great if it was one of the creatures we know well, but there was a Japanese salamander hiding there. It's one of the largest salamanders in the world, first described in the 1820s. In Japan, their meat is often eaten, and breeding is practiced on individual farms. But don't think that it's an easy and at the same time pleasant process. Firstly, in length, such a giant reaches 60 inches and weighs up to 77 pounds. Secondly, Japanese giant salamanders are extremely picky about their environment. It's said that they can exist only in the flowing cold water of mountain rivers. There, the salamander digs a burrow on the bank 6.5 to 10 feet deep or hides under a rock, as in the video. The head, body, and tail of the salamander have a flattened shape, which makes it quite easy to do so. What it doesn't have an easy time of, though, is looking around. Its wide-set eyes don't see well, so it relies on other senses to determine its position in space. And what's the point of having good eyesight when you have a lot of sharp and small teeth that can easily hold on to any prey, even the most skittish? The salamander uses its keen sense of smell to find its food: fish, frogs, crustaceans, insects, and small amphibians. Slowly moving along the bottom, it sniffs out future prey or ambushes it. The metabolism of these creatures is very slow, so they're never in a hurry and can go without food for long periods of time. Now I'll tell you a short story about how people met the real evil on an ordinary beach. It was in California. Fisherman was casting his nets, but he didn't see any catch. Upset, he was already planning to go home, then suddenly this miracle washed ashore. The man was speechless. He called specialists and waited for the results of the analysis. It turned out that in front of them was a deep-sea angler, which usually swims at a depth of a mile underwater. As you understand, to meet him on the shore is an incredible rarity and luck. Deep-sea anglers themselves are famous for their sharp teeth and the light bulb with which they lure prey. These creatures turn on a light and swim in the dark where nothing can be seen. The naive victim takes the light as a source of something tasty and nourishing, swims up to it, and almost jumps into the mouth of the angler. Octopuses. Have you met them in the sea, and how much do you think about them? Later, I'll tell you about these surprising creatures. Look at this huge octopus that's taken over an entire cargo ship. It can barely fit on it. It has to throw its tentacles overboard. This octopus is the largest in history, which can actually be as big as the ship and even bigger. However, it's such only in myths and stories of sailors and fishermen. It's the gigantic octopus, something similar to the kraken. In fact, it's its look-alike or twin brother. In the testimonies of mariners, the gigantic octopus is characterized by incredible size and aggression, sows terror among sailors, and very often attacks ships and boats. Needless to say, it's not very easy to believe that this is real. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility that the gigantic octopus is not a legendary creature, but a real octopus species which has not yet been discovered and described by scientists, at least officially. But what they discovered and described a long time ago is this octopus. Unlike the gigantic octopus, it's 100% real, and in my personal opinion, just as impressive. It's officially the most gigantic octopus in history and in the world right now. It's called the giant Pacific octopus. We've got the location, but what about the size? Well, most individuals grow to about 5 to 6.5 feet in length and weigh about 22 to 66 pounds, but that's nowhere near the limit. Divers have encountered giant Pacific octopuses weighing almost 110 pounds and up to 10 feet long, and the record holder weighed almost 440 pounds, and its total length, along with its tentacles, reached about 33 feet. Maybe this giant was confused with the gigantic octopus. Size is staggering after all, and their habits are similar. If the mythical octopus attacks ships and boats, then this giant attacks divers. It often sticks tightly to them and can cause serious damage to health or damage the scuba gear, which may well cause a person's death. According to some reports, this has already happened more than once. And when there are no divers nearby, the real gigantic octopus eats crustaceans and cephalopods, its main food. Like other octopuses, it prefers to lie on the bottom for a long time, quickly leaving it in a moment of danger or in pursuit of prey. It's not easy to encounter a giant Pacific octopus. Although the species itself is not threatened with extinction, these cephalopods live at very great depths. They've been found even at a mark of 5,000 feet below the sea surface. The next octopus I want to show you is rare for another reason. It's small in number, poorly studied, and almost elusive. It's also unusual in terms of appearance. Look how it waves in the water. For its unique appearance, the cephalopod receives its original name, the blanket octopus. It smoothly and majestically moves through the water, opening its mantle up, which resembles a blanket, a rug, or a cloak. By the way, the individuals you see are females. You can't admire males like this. The fact is that the blanket octopus is also a unique case of colossal difference in appearance and size between female and male individuals. Females are 40,000 times heavier than males. They weigh about 22 pounds, while males weigh only a fraction of an ounce, having a length of just a couple centimeters. And here's another unusual and very rare octopus, the Dumbo octopus, or Grimpoteuthis. It was nicknamed Dumbo after the Disney elephant, which this cephalopod looks like. The fins on the mantle of this octopus are arranged in such a way that when it moves, it resembles the sweeps of huge ears. Don't fall for this cuteness. The Dumbo octopus swallows its prey whole and lives in places where few can survive. Sometimes these Dumbo octopuses sink to depths of 23,000 feet and even lower. It's believed that the Disney octopuses can even be found in the Mariana Trench. We've talked about large and unusual octopuses, but what about the little ones? After all, among octopuses there are quite modest and tiny creatures. Here, by the way, the leader, Octopus wolfie, also known as the star-sucker pygmy octopus. Its length doesn't exceed even an inch, and it weighs just 0.03 ounces. It lives in the Pacific Ocean, and I wonder how scientists found it in the largest ocean of the planet. And here's another tiny one. It's a couple times longer than Wolfie, but weighs much bigger, about 3.5 ounces. And with its tentacles open, it looks even bigger. Still, it's small. So someone might get the idea to pick up this little creature in their hands. Do not do this under any circumstances. Even though this cephalopod is small, it is insanely dangerous. This blue-ringed octopus is one of the most toxic creatures on the entire planet. The octopus bite may not even be noticed, but the effect will be imminent. It's a complete paralysis of literally the entire body, including the respiratory system. The most horrible thing is that there's no antidote to this monster, so you can only save a person by artificially ventilating their lungs through a machine or CPR until the body destroys all the toxins on its own. By the way, not only blue-ringed octopuses are venomous, all octopuses are toxic to a greater or lesser degree, so it's better not to mess with them. And in general, toxins and size are not all I can tell you about them. Keep watching to learn even more interesting facts about these cephalopods. Flexibility. Octopuses prefer to settle under rocks or in the crevices of rocks. These creatures are not stupid, and I'll talk about it later. They do not try to show themselves as the coolest in the whole ocean, so they take care of safety. And they do it very well. Octopuses have incredible flexibility, so they can get into such narrow places where no predator can crawl through. The only hard part of the octopus is its beak, which looks like a parrot's beak. It uses it to hunt and eat. If the beak gets through, the whole body follows it. This allows octopuses to get through even bottles, get out of traps that have only small holes, and so on. It looks very impressive. Disguise. If an octopus has nowhere to squeeze in to hide from a predator or just anyone, it can still hide. Octopuses are amazing masters of disguise. I think sometimes they camouflage even better than chameleons. Using a combination of pigment, nerves, and muscles, the octopus manipulates its chromatophores to change its color and even its appearance. That is, it doesn't just blend in with its surroundings, but it also changes its texture. As a result, an octopus can easily become part of some coral, and absolutely no one can realize it until the octopus itself takes its disguise off. The mimic octopus mastered the skill of camouflage best of all. In addition to everything else, it also knows how to imitate the behavior of some animals. That is, it literally is able to transform itself into some kind of jellyfish, fish, or sea snake, and such an imposter would be hard for even humans to recognize, let alone sea creatures. What's also interesting is that octopus's camouflage depends on their eyes. Having lost one eye, an octopus loses the ability to change its color on the half of its body on which the damaged or missing eye is located. Octopuses use camouflage not only to hide from predators or to rest in the midst of the sea chaos, camouflage also helps them hunt. When I told you about the giant Pacific octopus, I told you that it lies on the bottom for long periods of time and then quickly rushes after its prey. All other octopuses tend to do the same thing. These predators love ambushes. When they see the prey, they quickly take their disguise off or simply swim after the prey, grab it with tentacles, and then pull it up to the beak. This is how octopuses prey on crustaceans, plankton, various fish, and other cephalopods. Intelligence. Octopuses hunt in a smart way, but in other aspects of their lives, they're not deprived of intelligence. Scientists rightly consider octopuses to be one of the smartest marine animals. They've conducted various tests to verify this. So, in one of them, the octopus had to guess to release the fish from the bottle, having previously opened the lid, and in another test, it had to memorize for several days in which of the tubes scientists placed the fish, and without seeing the fish from behind the partition, choose the correct tube. The octopus passed both tests easily. Scientists also noticed how the octopus looked at itself in a mirror. It's not yet been proven that they have self-awareness, but perhaps there are prerequisites for this. Like all other intelligent creatures, the octopus does not tolerate confinement. It likes freedom, so it always realizes when it's in captivity and strives to get out of there. There were lots of situations when the cephalopods have managed to break free from a variety of places, from the ship and the storage in the aquarium to the usual jar in which the animal was placed. Octopuses also know how to use improvised means. For example, in the ocean, they often use various shells, including coconut shells and other things to hide. An octopus can get into such a shelter and rest from predators, or it can hunt. Fish do not understand when some strange shell runs at them on the seabed and becomes easy prey. Heart and tentacles. And here's another interesting fact. This time it's about the body of the octopus. This cephalopod is so cool that it has not just one heart, but three. The main one, as well as the gill ones. Additional engines perform an auxiliary function. They pump blood into the third heart, and in turn carries it through the body. By the way, the octopus blood is blue, not red. This is because oxygen carries not iron through it, as in mammals, but copper. Not only the heart of the octopus is impressive, but also its tentacles. This part of the body is no less important than the head, and in some ways it's even more important. More than half of the octopus's neurons are located along the tentacles, and each tentacle has its own local nerve center. The tentacles allow it to process sensory information and respond to external factors. These animals can even taste with their tentacles instead of their beak. But the best part is that octopus tentacles can have a life of their own. If an octopus has its tentacles removed, they'll continue to move and read information. It looks both fascinating and creepy at the same time. By the way, moving octopus tentacles are a popular delicacy in South Korea, a dish called sannakji. And by the way, if the octopus is left without tentacles, it won't be upset because it can just grow new ones. I think you'll agree that these sea creatures are fantastic. The ocean is full of amazing creatures. Stingrays, crabs. You probably didn't even realize that there's a constant feud between them. But why? Keep watching to find it out. Why do crabs hate stingrays? In fact, the answer is simple. Stingrays feed on crustaceans, which include crabs. Plus, the confrontation between these animals is intensifying because of global climate change and observed shifts in marine ecosystems. This footage shows an area inhabited by spider crabs. Until recently, the area was home to a considerable number of sharks. Under their protection, the crabs lived, fed, and reproduced freely and felt at ease. Recently, however, the shark population has decreased by 70%. Every year, amazing things happen in the bay near the Melbourne seaport in Australia. Thousands of spider crabs flood the seafloor. Like stingrays, they're able to camouflage themselves, so it's difficult to spot a single crab. However, when they appear in huge numbers, the movement becomes noticeable. An orange blanket of crabs covers the shallow waters every year from May to July. The larger crabs that can reach 27.5 inches in length and 6.6 inches in width join the cast and move with it on their long legs in search of a shelter for molting. The crabs huddle together to protect each other as the crustaceans begin to shed their old chitin. This is when they become vulnerable to enemies. Their vulnerability lasts until the new shell hardens. It takes time for the new armor to harden, at least a few days are required. It's precisely at these moments that stingrays are waiting for crabs. They know very well that crustaceans that have dropped their shells are completely defenseless. Stingrays do not need to exert many efforts. The seabed is literally teeming with prey, and they, like vacuum cleaners, sweep through the area and suck up as much prey as they can eat. Thanks to a particular sensory organ, ampullae of Lorenzini, stingrays can sense the smallest changes in the electric field of potential prey. These ampullae are located at the mouth of the crab, so the stingray doesn't need its eyes to detect its prey. As soon as they open their mouth, which is at the bottom, and feel an impulse from another living creature, they start capturing crabs that are helpless during the molting period. This abundance of food attracts crowds of stingrays, causing the crab population to decrease during the molting season. At times, out of several thousand crabs that arrive in the bay, only a couple hundred survive. It's too small even from the point of view of natural selection. The question arises, don't the crabs have defense mechanisms? Or maybe they have an instinctive ability to choose safe places during their molting period? Alas, no. Crabs are absolutely defenseless, and they have nothing to counteract the running of the natural mechanism. But in general, mass movements give them somewhat more protection than individual movement. Crabs climb on top of each other, sometimes forming quite high piles. As a result, those at the bottom or in the middle of the pile are relatively safe. Perhaps this is one of the few protective mechanisms of crab behavior. In general, crabs have sharp claws that they can use to defend themselves. Their reaction to the video camera demonstrates their readiness to defend themselves in case of danger. However, they're quite slow by nature and are still vulnerable to attacks by stingrays. In addition, stingrays are by no means the only threat to crabs. They're also targets for seagulls, seals, dolphins, and even starfish, which have migrated to the bay relatively recently due to changes in the ecosystem. In addition, some crabs that have shed their shells attack their own kind. Indeed, why bother hunting and searching for food when you can always find a source of calories and nutrients nearby? Given these circumstances, it's not surprising that of the tens of thousands of crabs arriving in the bay, only a few survive. As you can see, spider crabs have many good reasons to hate not only the stingrays, but the whole world. The confrontations between stingrays and crabs is certainly interesting, but I find stingrays' battles with other animals, such as sharks, more interesting. Stay tuned to see this and learn even more interesting information about stingrays. Stingray versus shark. Last year, fishermen in the Mexican city of Cabo San Lucas found a young mako shark with a stingray spine sticking out between its eyes. Apparently, the shark had a fight with the stingray, which resulted in the latter's spine piercing its brain. When the spine was removed from the shark's body, it was found to be 7.8 inches long. Mako sharks usually live in deep water and don't hunt stingrays. Some species in Mexico grow to 5 feet wide and weigh up to 220 pounds. These stingrays are hunted only by large sharks. Experts believe that stingrays rarely use their spiked tail even to defend themselves. In addition, stingrays can rarely stand up to sharks since the skin of predatory fish is very difficult to pierce. But in this case, the mako shark paid the price for its aggression. To see a shark fight with a stingray is a big deal because so many conditions have to come together. However, it's still possible, and the following footage proves it. It shows a great white shark hunting a stingray about 30 feet off a popular beach in eastern New South Wales near Sydney. The predatory fish came to the attention of videographer Lewis Lachlan. At first, he was just filming footage of his trip, and then he noticed a shark preying on a stingray. He filmed the predator on video from a drone. The footage shows the hungry shark stalking its prey just 30 feet from the shore. After several unsuccessful attempts, the predator finally caught up with the stingray and disappeared into the depths. It's worth noting that at this moment there were many surfers on the beach. After what he saw, Lewis called the Coast Guard and warned that there was a shark near the shore. The man was thanked for his vigilance, and Lewis himself was left with unique footage, which he soon shared on the internet. The biggest stingray. Stingrays have virtually no enemies other than large aquatic predators and humans, and sometimes get truly incredible catches. In 2011, famous British fisherman Jeremy Wade, who hosts the TV program River Monsters on Discovery Channel, caught the largest and most dangerous river stingray in his life. The short-tailed river stingray weighed a record 280 pounds. That was a real monster. The courageous fisherman had to fight the fish for 2 hours to get the stingray to the bank. He tied the fish to the boat, pulled it to the shore, and could only see the size of his trophy there. Jeremy admitted that this was the most tiring fishing trip and the most dangerous catch of his career. But even Jeremy's catch isn't the limit. The largest stingrays in the world are the manta rays, which are staggering in size. They reach 29.5 feet in width, and their weight is sometimes 4,400 to 6,600 pounds. In Spanish, the name of this fish is translated as blanket or cloak. Indeed, if you look from below at the manta ray floating by, it seems that a real magic carpet floats over you. Due to their impressive size, manta rays need a lot of food. However, despite the presence of 16 rows of teeth, manta rays are unable to cause harm to humans because they feed exclusively on tiny fish and plankton. Their teeth are necessary for good filtration of zooplankton. But don't underestimate this huge stingray because due to its love of jumping, it can be somewhat dangerous. When this huge fish soars over the water and then flops down on the water surface, the roar of the fall is heard for several kilometers. Often these giants are called devilfish. This is due to the presence of unusual outgrowths at the front of the head resembling horns. In fact, it's just head fins, but in a slightly transformed form, helping the stingray rake up fry or plankton. Despite their appearance, manta rays are kind and peaceful creatures. If they're capable of causing harm to humans, it's only due to human carelessness. And what about dolphins? Who are they feuding with? You won't believe it, but sharks are actually afraid of dolphins as crabs are of stingrays. You'll learn about this further. Dolphins are large creatures, which have rather sharp teeth. But the teeth of an average dolphin are nothing compared to the terrifying mouth of, for instance, the great white shark. Nevertheless, the great white shark does not like dolphins and even is afraid of them. And the first reason for this is the number. By nature, sharks are loners. They swim in the ocean on their own, rarely forming a group, and even then do so mostly in the mating season. Dolphins, on the contrary, prefer to travel the ocean in groups and also maintain family ties. For instance, if a shark decides to attack a baby dolphin, and at this moment there's parents, they'll certainly severely chase the offender away, even without looking at the fact that it's dangerous and to the predator. The same applies to weak and old individuals, which dolphins try to keep an eye on. This is the main reason why sharks are afraid of dolphins. Dolphins rarely provoke conflicts, usually it's sharks that start it first, but in this case they take the risk and can get it. Dolphins swoop down on a shark in a huge group, chase it, exhaust it, and then often get rid of it, but it also happens that they just let it go. Agility and speed. In addition to group strength, dolphins have individual qualities that sharks have to put up with. Dolphins are much more agile and faster than sharks. The dolphin's incredible jumps alone are worth a lot. Under favorable conditions, the dolphin can jump to reach 16 feet. Sharks can only dream about it. Also, dolphins are very nimble creatures. They can quickly change the trajectory of movement, cut corners, and just move very fast. Some dolphins can reach speeds of up to 37 miles per hour, and they can swim 109 yards faster than Usain Bolt runs it. Of course, sharks are also not the slowest creatures, but still, on the totality of factors, they can be called clumsy compared to dolphins. This is another reason why the toothed predators are so afraid of these clever mammals. Speaking of intelligence, developed intellect is another reason why dolphins are disliked by sharks. The fact that dolphins are highly evolved creatures is probably known to everyone, and it's really so. Dolphins are able even to answer questions, and that was proved by special equipment. Also, dolphins have their own language of communication, and their everyday vocabulary is almost as good as that of humans. Finally, dolphins learn very well, experience the whole range of emotions, and are even able to recognize themselves in the mirror. That is, they have a sense of self-perception. Dolphins use their sharp mind well in practice. For example, when they fight with a shark, they make competent and precise strokes. Dolphins hit the shark's body with their powerful beaks, do it with a rush, and meaningfully hit the gill slits, the shark's most vulnerable place. It's like the solar plexus in a human. It shows that dolphins know how to inflict damage and fight smart. Such an opponent would be feared not only by sharks, but by anyone in the world ocean. Thus, dolphins deal with sharks that are a danger to themselves or their congeners. But it's also known that dolphins help representatives of other species, including humans. However, everything is not so unambiguous. Many scientists believe that dolphins are far from being as kind and simple as they seem, and that they don't actually save people. In their opinions, dolphins can swim up to people who are drowning or in danger, but only out of curiosity. Dolphins can even let themselves be grabbed with their hands, but this can't be called a real rescue. Dolphins are driven by instinct, and having convinced themselves that the person's inedible, they leave them. In any case, that's not really the point right now. Moreover, there are some videos on the internet in which dolphins rescue people from sharks. In such cases, dolphins act in the same way when they just attack sharks, driving them away from their congeners. Helping a human, dolphins usually surround them and form a protective barrier. After that, they may start to chase the shark away or even hit it. But it also happens that the shark, realizing there's nothing it can do, simply swims away on its own. So maybe dolphins don't save people from drowning, but they can protect them from sharks. Scientists believe that dolphins can be considered one of the most reliable bodyguards in the ocean. So if a person's in danger and there are dolphins nearby, they can't worry. Angling is interesting, especially when you hook this. Later on, I'll show you which monsters fishermen happen to encounter. Something terrible. Who do you picture when you hear about river monsters? I'm sure many people think of relatively well-known, though dangerous creatures like piranhas. But still, the one the fishermen in this story caught is beyond all comprehension. In front of you, I don't even know what it is. It's either an abnormal snake or a mutated fish. In general, it's a real monster, which could only be pulled out of the river with the help of a miracle and high technology. I think this creature is definitely one of the most dangerous fish in the entire aquatic system. This is evidenced by its toxic red color, its giant razor-sharp teeth, and even its tongue, which it used to eat its tasty river prey every day. Do you think this story of the fisherman could be real? Or does the monster look too unrealistic? Share your thoughts in the comments. Muskie. And this is definitely a creature already known to science, the muskie, which is considered the largest representative of the pike's family on the planet, as well as a pretty rare freshwater fish. The monster has a rather cunning and dangerous appearance, which is fully justified by its behavior. The muskie prefers to blend in with its surroundings, for which it uses a leopard pattern of brown-green color. The camouflage would be perfect if the body did not grow up to 5 feet in length and the weight didn't exceed 66 pounds. Such a large size almost immediately makes it almost invincible predator. After all, there's simply no inhabitant comparable to this pike in terms of size in its waters. However, it's important to keep power. At any moment, someone that wants to overthrow the pike may appear. The pike understands the responsibility and holds onto it with its teeth almost literally. And it was also for this reason that it came up with a special way of hunting. If someone is shorter than it by at least a third, the pike eats it. That's how skillfully and uncompromisingly the muskie deals with its opponents. Even people who are much larger than this pike are bitten by this predator. Despite such not the most pleasant news, fishermen are not frightened by this information. On the contrary, this only adds to the excitement and desire to be the first among friends who managed to catch such a majestic creature. Are you out of your mind? I think that's the question this man in the kayak was asked by a predator in the river, which you'll see later. Until it shows up, take a guess. What animal might be out there? Hurry up and write your options in the comments. Yeah, you got it right. It was an alligator. All right, I'll take the word crocodile as well. Alligators have been in rivers for a long time. There's a reason these creatures are considered ancient. Their first species appeared tens of millions of years ago. The largest alligator which has ever been recorded was about 20 feet long and weighed about a ton. It's hard to imagine because the size is comparable to a real car. What else makes these creatures unique is exactly how their sex is determined. It's not a complete randomness, as it is with humans. It's all about temperature. At temperatures above 93 degrees Fahrenheit, males hatch. At temperatures below 86 degrees Fahrenheit, females hatch. And at intermediate temperatures, both can hatch. But what both have in common is their hunting styles. All alligators are incredibly fast, but at the same time their stamina is bad. They also have eyes that glow in the dark. Due to the fact that they're on top of the head, it looks incredibly creepy from the outside. Appearances are deceptive. The people in this video were boating in the Amazon River and happened to spot giant otters there. It seems that these creatures are a ray of light in the pitch blackness and anger of the Amazon, but that's not the case. It's more like the opposite. The motto of these otters is a crocodile for lunch and a jaguar for dinner. Their length can reach up to 6.5 feet. Their body shape is streamlined, allowing them to perform dizzying tricks, dodge attacks, or swim very fast. One of the main features of these creatures is their communication with their congeners. When a large prey appears on the horizon, giant otters immediately gather in a group and go at it in a crowd. Their strength and boundless brazenness allow them to hunt absolutely anyone. And at the same time, almost no one can confront them. After all, there are many giant otters, they share duties, and someone can definitely notice the impending threat. Usually this someone is a sentinel, the role of which is played by a male. If a family member is threatened by some animal, help will come to it immediately. Animals beat the enemy in a crowd because, as you know, the best defense is offense. But despite their ambitions, the ego of giant otters is not so great that they get out on land and chase jaguars non-stop. Basically, these predators feed on fish, which they're satisfied with. Well guys, this is a Nile perch caught by a skilled fisherman. It's covered in foam, huge, alive, and full of energy, but caught. But don't feel so sorry for it. After all, this perch kills many other fish every day. It was time to pay it. This representative of ray-finned fish grows up to 6.5 feet in length and can weigh 440 pounds. Except for the dorsal cartilage, the Nile perch has no bones, so the meat of this scaly sumo wrestler is very valuable in haute cuisine. But no matter how much most people like it, it can be difficult to catch such a monster. A fisherman would rather dislocate their shoulder or twist their arm than pull a sharp, fast, strong, and disobedient 440-pound giant out of the water. And in general, I would not advise you to mess with this fish. It's rumored to be a man-eater. Well, given its size, that could well be true, so I'd rather not take any chances. I don't know how or why, but knowing about all these dangerous monsters that live in rivers, people keep diving and charging themselves with adrenaline. On one such dive, an experienced diver discovered a strange moving object hiding behind a rock. At first he thought it was algae and many different fish that had settled in it. But as soon as he swam a little closer, everything immediately fell into place. It was a giant anaconda that very underwater inhabitant that you definitely don't want to encounter if your life is dear to you. The fact is that the size of the snake is legendary. It's said that it can be more than 33 feet long and weigh more than 660 pounds. It doesn't have any venom, but that only makes it scarier. After all, if not with venom, then with its insane power, the anaconda leaves no chance for other underwater inhabitants as well as some land animals. It's believed that these snakes do not hurt humans, but there are also many legends about how they attack people. It's up to you to decide who and what to believe. Due to the abnormal size, the snake spends almost all of its time underwater. It's too lazy to carry such a massive body. It hides in a dark place where its body merges with the environment and waits for the right moment to make a sharp lunge towards the prey. With a deft and tenacious lunge, the anaconda catches the target with its teeth and doesn't let the prey go anywhere else. If the enemy's bigger, it will begin to strangle it, squeezing the prey with its body. Even very strong animals like alligators are not able to get out of such a chokehold. Will you treat me? The next animal cannot be called a river creature, but because it's quite common near rivers, fishermen often spot it and catch it on camera, just like the people in this video did. That's right, you've already guessed it, it's a grizzly bear, one of the brown bear subspecies. It's quite difficult to distinguish it visually from other brown bears. They have almost no differences. However, there is still something that allows you to do this. For example, long claws, which are 6 inches long. With such blades on its paws, the grizzly can eat honey and catch fish without any problems. With the help of sharpened tools, the grizzly, as the most experienced fisherman, perfectly tracks and hooks the prey, always staying well fed. But the main weapon is not even that. The grizzly's strength lies in its intelligence, in how skillfully it catches its prey, in how wide its gastronomic interest is, in how it skillfully feels the impending cold weather and stock up on provisions in time. Well, when the business is done, it can safely hibernate. During this period, its body temperature doesn't drop too much to about 86 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The heart rate is kept in a good range from 8 to 18 beats per minute. This can be called a mild form of stasis. A bear in a dream moves and stretches. And if a thaw suddenly comes, the bear will feel it and go out for a snack. They're even here. I don't know how, but I was thinking to myself, it's a good thing there aren't any spiders in the rivers. It's creepy even without them. But it's not the case. These creatures, called fishing spiders, do not just live in rivers, they walk on them, do not drown at all, and even hunt fish. Their complex organs are so sensitive that the arthropods distinguish the object by the type of ripples coming from it. In simple words, this spider will never confuse a leaf falling nearby and some floundering insect or fish. This monster comes out to hunt at night and takes its signature pose. It sits comfortably on land with its hind legs and holds onto the water with its front legs. The whole body of the arthropod is covered with velvety, water-repellent hairs. Once the prey gets into the area the spider censors, the predator will rush after it through the water. The good news is that these spiders are not dangerous for humans. Sort of. Even a small spider can inspire fear, let alone 12-inch giants. Keep watching to see the biggest and most dangerous spiders with the deadliest venom. Let's start with a real giant, which is even longer than a human being. Look at this arthropod. It's terrifying with its long legs and vicious appearance, but it's not really a spider. In fact, it's a crustacean called the Japanese spider crab. Still, it has something of a spider, at least in its name, so let's look at it first to warm up. The legs of this arthropod can be up to 20 feet long, and the weight of the spider crab is up to 44 pounds. If it were a full-fledged spider, all other crawling creatures would just be dust under its huge legs. However, it encounters only with sea spiders because, first of all, it's a crab. It lives off the coast of Japan at a depth of about 1,000 feet. What's interesting, despite its eerie appearance and impressive size, the Japanese spider crab is not aggressive and it's even calm. In addition, it's one of the most common exotic pets in Japan. It can often be seen in aquariums. By the way, the spider crab can live up to 100 years, so it's truly a pet for life. Goliath bird eater. Now let's move on to real spiders. And the first one is the current record holder, the Goliath bird eater, or Theraphosa blondi. It's the largest spider on the planet. The body of female Goliath bird eaters are 4 inches in length, and males is 3.5 inches long. This is the largest body of all spiders on the planet. Its legs aren't small either. They grow up to 11 inches in length. The spider with exactly this length of legs was caught in Venezuela in 1965. It's still the biggest spider in documented history. Speaking of habitat, the Goliath inhabits not only Venezuela but also other countries of South and Latin America, where it hides in burrows which it covers with cobwebs. There it also eats its prey. Despite the name, the Goliath bird eater eats not just birds, they're rather a rarity in its diet. Much more often it gobbles up mice, arthropods, worms, and amphibians. It's a good thing that the Goliath bird eater is almost completely safe for humans. Of course, it can attack and bite us, but consequences of this attack are limited to a couple of tolerable symptoms, such as nausea. Giant huntsman spider. Although most people recognize the superiority of the Goliath bird eater in terms of size, many people still disagree. In their opinion, the giant huntsman spider, also called Heteropoda maxima, holds the palm of victory. It makes sense. The spider was discovered in 2001 in the Laos province of Khammouane. Scientists stumbled upon it in a cave and were shocked. The size and the legs of this arthropod are even larger than that of the Goliath bird eater. It reaches up to 12 inches. Just imagine how terrifying it is to stumble upon such a monster in a dark cave. As for the length of the body, it's about half that of the Goliath bird eater. And for this reason, the Venezuelan spider is still considered a record holder. By the way, these arthropods are slightly similar to the first animal in this episode, the Japanese spider crab. Firstly, they're also large, and secondly, because of their long legs and fast movement, they somewhat resemble crabs. Heteropoda maxima hunt on flies, mosquitoes, and other small insects. They're also considered helpers in agriculture, but are rarely seen on farms. They're more often seen in the dark caves of Laos. There are still many big spiders in the world, but so far no one has managed to come close to the Goliath bird eater and the giant huntsman spider in terms of size. At the same time, there are plenty of other unusual spiders in the world to check out too. Keep watching to see the smallest spider, the most venomous spiders on the planet, and the spider that weaves nets which are tens of meters long. Just now, you and I looked at really huge spiders with all their giant legs and stuff. Now the complete opposite's the case. It's hard to even believe that this is a spider and not some gnat or other bug, but it is. This is a species called Patu digua, which lives in Colombia, and is the smallest spider on the planet. It's so tiny that its size is counted in micrometers, 0.01 inches for males and 0.02 inches for females. That's about half a millimeter. And to make it even clearer, that's about the same as a pinhead. Scientists discovered the species relatively recently, less than 50 years ago. And no wonder, because such babies are extremely difficult to spot. For the same reason, scientists have not yet been able to properly study the species. But they've already learned something. Patu digua has a very developed nervous system, which occupies 80% of their body. A consequence of the developed nervous system is a very large brain relative to the body. If I may say so, Patu digua are the most brainy of all spiders. Of course, such a small spider is not capable of harming humans, but the same cannot be said about the next animal of this episode, the Brazilian wandering spider. It made it into the Guinness Book of World Records as the most venomous spider in the world. It shares this title with the Sydney funnel-web spider. Brazilian wandering spiders are very dangerous for humans. Firstly, they're large enough, their legs can reach 8 inches in length. Secondly, they have very powerful venom. The body of the Brazilian wandering spider contains a neurotoxin which causes loss of muscle control with subsequent respiratory arrest, leading to paralysis and suffocation. The venom causes instant infection of the lymphatic system, and its entry into the circulatory system leads to heart failure in 85% of all cases. Finally, this creature is unpredictable. Not for nothing it's called a wandering spider because it doesn't sit still, and it's constantly wandering in search of new prey. It can appear anywhere and anytime. For example, in a box of bananas exported from Brazil to Europe. These creatures like to hide among bananas, for which they are also called banana spiders. Black widow. Since we're talking about venomous spiders, it's impossible not to mention the black widow. This is probably one of the most famous venomous spiders on the planet. If the Brazilian wandering spider is called the most venomous in general, then the black widow is perhaps the most venomous spider in North America. The modest size of this red and black spider means absolutely nothing. Although they rarely exceed 1/3 of an inch in length, their venom is incredibly powerful. It's said to be 15 times stronger than the venom of a rattlesnake. An hour after the bite, the neurotoxin spreads through the lymphatic system of the victim, followed by painful cramps of the abdominal muscles, vomiting, profuse sweating, and thirst. However, it's not as creepy as you might think. First of all, the black widow is not aggressive and attacks only to defend itself. Secondly, if the victim is assisted and treated, then everything will end positively for them. These days, black widows bite thousands of people in the US every year, but they don't kill anyone. By the way, here's an interesting fact. The black widow is so nicknamed because the female eats the male after mating, just like a mantis. How many spiders do you think there are around the world? According to a recent study, there are about 1 quadrillion spiders on Earth. That's 1 with 15 zeros, or 1,000,000 billion. It's hard to even comprehend that number. In some species and genera, spiders total millions, while in others they total thousands. For example, in the species Hogna ingens, the species is also called the Deserta grande wolf spider. At the moment, there are less than 4,000 individuals left in the world, and this is very small for spiders. It's believed that Hogna ingens is the rarest spider in the world. They live on the island of Deserta Grande. It's part of the Portuguese archipelago Madeira. There, these arthropods can be seen in caves and crevices. Hogna ingens are known to hunt on small spiders, millipedes, and also attack small lizards. Darwin's bark spider. Perhaps the main feature of any spider is its web. Of course, there are spiders that do not weave a web, but most species are engaged in weaving a web, and in this respect, it's difficult to find an equal to the Darwin's bark spider. These creatures can weave gigantic and very strong webs into which not only flies can fall, but even a large animal or a human. Their area is up to 32 square feet, and the lengths of ropes reach 82 feet. This despite the fact that the spider itself is only about 0.7 inches long. But even this is not the most interesting thing. Researchers studied the web of the Darwin's bark spider and came to the conclusion that it's incredibly strong. According to some indicators, it's 10 times stronger than Kevlar, which, by the way, is the material used in the manufacture of bulletproof vests. That's how powerful and formidable these spiders are. However, not all spiders are formidable and tough. Some are real sweethearts, like the final spider from the episode, the Hawaiian happy face spider. This is its official name. Scientists have not come up with anything better, but it's not necessary. The name perfectly captures the essence. Each happy face spider has its own unique bright coloring. Some are pale, while others are colored in several bright hues. For example, yellow, orange, or blue. There's an ongoing theory that such an unusual coloring and smile helps these spiders to confuse predatory birds. While they're at the sight of such bright colorations will decide whether it's venomous or not, the spiders already managed to run away into the nearest dense foliage. The Hawaiian happy face spider is not only funny and cool, but also harmless to humans, because its length is only about 0.1 inches. One disappointing thing is the happy face spiders on the verge of extinction due to human interference in the wildlife of the Hawaiian Islands. That's all, guys. Which spider did you like the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.